What's Spawn What Ifs here. This is going to be part 3 of What If Belle Was a Necromancer. And I'm pretty sure that all of you can see by the picture. Basically, this is how Belle is going to look like. And yes, since in the last episode I did say that a new god was born. And well, although liches aren't gods, they have the power to both kill gods and, well, they also almost have the same power as they do. Except there's one thing which differentiates both the liches and the gods. The gods need permission to use their powers. Liches do not. And well, in the last episode we had the war, which had happened with basically, all of you guys know, the battle of the four armies. And just like I said in the last video, the entire battle has gained rather a lot of fame. So, yeah. And well, all of them know about basically who Belle was, the first ever Necromancer. And in the last episode I also said about the Necrocomic-Con, which Belle had created, although it wasn't fully finished yet. The main part of the book which was missing was the part about necromancy. And well, if you guys see those 5 books he has, one of them is the Necronomicon, that being about necromancy. One is for dark magic, the third one is for curses, the fourth one is basically his new type of magic, which only liches have, that being negative energy. So yeah, he basically always has an aura of negative energy, which makes magic, well, how do I say this? He basically, since he's a lich, basically physical attacks almost do nothing to him unless they're either enchanted by runes, magic, or by holy power. And well, then for his 5th book, that is the book which categorizes every single one of his followers. Although Belle, he can't create a familia, that's only something which proper gods can do. He is currently a lich, and a godlike being which is immortal and can live forever. Basically, if it left for too long, it can amass more power than even some of the head gods. So, yeah. And well, in the last episode I also said that Belle's sister Alice had become one of the council members of the Council of 12, which is basically Evilus's top, well, how do I say it, top guys. And also, well, let's see, Alice is basically immortal due to several uses of magic on her, and also because most of her body has basically been, how do you say it, it's no longer it's basically no longer human. She had most of her body parts replaced with high-grade metals. So basically she's currently a golem. Yeah, she basically changed her own appearance into a golem. And well, she's also missing her heart and all of that. Now the main thing she has is her core. And she's also the one who basically leads all of the Dark Paladins. So yeah, and just like I said, this is about 3,000 to 4,000 years after Belle was defeated in that battle. So the Evilus organization has spread to every single continent in the world. And well, they also have spies in almost every single corner of it. They have spies in the church, in almost all of the churches, except the one which is basically worshipping Hera. And you guys might be wondering, since we currently have got 0 information about Hera in the anime, I'm just gonna say that Hera is currently off on a small continent. Basically, it's, well, the continent is the size of, well, it's the half of size of Greenland. But, you know, they still think of it as a new continent, so yeah. And that's basically where her familia is. And well, she's rather powerful in her own right. Because even though Athena is known for having her basically navy, Hera is the one who currently has the strongest navy in the entirety of the world. With her having dozens of fleet of hundreds of ships. So yeah. That's where Hera currently is. And also one more thing. Hestia will not be gaining Bel as her companion because, or her first familiar member, because it's a bit obvious, he's a lich. Instead, she's going to get, what should I name him? Instead of Bel, let's go with, just a minute, I need to come up with a good name. Let's say, fuck it, I'll just go for an English name. Luke. Yeah, that sounds good. So Luke is the one who Zeus takes on as his grandson, and well, Luke is rather powerful because he has affinity to not only fire magic like Bel in the anime had, he has an affinity for both fire magic, holy magic, light magic, ward magic, and also one more, with that being ice magic. So all in total he has 5 affinities. And even at the age of 9, he's able to kill a couple of goblins, since Zeus... Well, actually no, let's stop with Bel for a moment. He is currently amassing, that is not amassing his strength, he is simply making his golems and the rest of his basically zombified dwarves, which have just become skeletons by this point, because, you know, flesh rots. So yeah. So he basically has them make him a new type of armor. And well, the golems go ahead and hunt several, basically, different types of monsters. And well, they also go to Bel's secret stash of basically accessories, different types of wands, magical orbs, and magical crystals. So, if you guys are wondering, Bel's cloak is made out of dragon hide. So yeah, it's rather hard to pierce. And then those bones which you guys see, they're not the bones of a dragon, they're rather bones of a, what do you call it, and a demonoid. And that being a rather powerful demon, which Bel accidentally found, because the demon was currently fighting up against a troop of adventurers, which were all level 5 or higher. And there was about 7 of them, with the leading one being level 6. So yeah. Bel sort of swooped in there and, well, killed the adventurers, and then rose them. Basically, how to say it, Bel swooped in there, basically started fighting against the demon and the adventurers, with the adventurers basically seeing in a skeleton, basically almost the size of a house, or at least looking like that because of his cloak, which he has. And, well, yeah, they got fucking terrified of him. And now, every single time Bel enters a battlefield, only the most, how do you say it, only those without fear, or the ones who have runes which protect them with holy power, do not get a defect. That defect being terrified, which basically does this: minus 50% morale, and also minus 50% magical powers, and endurance and defense. So yeah. Bel is rather powerful when he's fighting alongside with his minions. But anyways, Bel's current power level, just like I said, it's somewhere, since for the last 1000 or so years, he was basically soaking up all of the magical energy from the land basically near him, and that caused the entire province, or well, half of the province at least, to become swarming with skeletons. Basically the undead wyverns, dragons, and all the other guys. Although there's just one problem with that. All of them are under the control of Bel. And so, Bel currently has a force over, since it has been thousands upon thousands of years, so adventurers, different types of knights, soldiers, merchants, dwarves, elves, all of them have begun slowly to be affected by Bel's, basically, dark energy, and well, they became undead. So, Bel's army is currently, well, or at least his minions, which he has there, they're about, I would say, 50 or so thousand. Although they're nowhere near as elite as his last army. They're basically skeletons which have maybe some leather armor, Maybe you can find some undead knights who have like proper armor, like steel and all of that. But he doesn't have any of his basically powerful orcs, which are basically the Orca in the Lord of the Rings. He doesn't have any more of his armor. All of that was completely and utterly, well, not obliterated. It was taken back by the, basically first, the holy priests and all of that just started to use holy powers and that, so they would be less corrupted. And well, they succeeded in that, and then all of that armor was smelted down, and they created a gigantic, basically, statue of Odin in that province that just basically symbolize, well, actually not for two reasons. To symbolize Odin's power, and the second reason being that that statue basically releases a massive amount of holy energy, basically creating a barrier through which the undead cannot pass through the uncharted lands, or basically the rest of the kingdom. And well, Bale notices that. Well, he just feels the barrier when he's fighting against the demonoid. And well, he finally succeeds using his dark magic, and curse magic to basically combine the two of them, making... He basically sprouts out 4 new arms from his back and equips all 6 of his hands with basically cursed swords. And then he simply starts fighting the devil like that. Or the demon. And eventually he succeeds, with all 6 of his swords piercing him. He pierces both of the demon's hearts, the demon's head. He basically cuts off both of his arms and both of his legs with the swings of his 3 other swords. And after that, the devil simply dies. Although that's it. He doesn't basically disappear into a magical crystal. The devil just falls down, dying like a human. And well, Bale then figures out that this isn't any regular, how do you call it, monster. So basically, he gets some of his golems and then he tells them to start basically skinning the devil alive, getting his bones, and then those bones became, as you can see on the picture, Bale's gauntlets and his armor. And well, simply putting it, that's when somebody arrives to Bale's hideout. That being somebody looking like this. Now, Bale is a bit intrigued by it, but he also sees that, you can't see it here, but on the front of his hoodie, that is, on top of his hoodie, or well, he's currently, what do you call it, basically where the hoodie is on top of his head, he sees a symbol of Evilus. Although he sees that, and then beneath it he sees a skeleton with basically 3 magical crystals around him. He doesn't know who this is until the figure bows down. And well, this figure, let's call him... Michael, that sounds good. That is going to be Belle's first ever true, how do you call it, subordinate. And well, Michael simply explains what part of order he is. He is a part of the Order of the Necronomicon, with Belle immediately realizing what he means by that. And he spurts out, wait, you have my book? And well, after that, Michael just confirms it. He asks Belle if he is the ancient necromancer Belle. And well, Belle simply starts to laugh. And well, after that little exchange, Michael tells him all about what has happened. He tells him about the Necronomicon order, which basically spawns, which unlike all of the other orders is rather small, only having a few dozen at best. Although those few dozen are all above level 5. So Belle has just found a rather elite force of basically his own subordinates. And well, he asks them to bring them to their basically main headquarters. Those headquarters being in the Imperium, a different nation in the kingdom. But before Belle leaves, he basically goes ahead and examines the statue of Odin. and he sees that the holy magic, that the holy power is so immense that even he can't pass through it. So then he basically arranges all of his undead hordes to block the entirety of the shield, basically to start whacking at it. So the skeletons and all of the other undead simply claw on top of each other and start punching, clawing, and using any type of weapons they have to try and destroy the holy power shield. Now, this served two different purposes: to see if this shield would become any weakened after so many different attacks are going to it, and to also see what sort of reaction Odin would also have it. So he leaves one of his golems and basically gives him an artifact which has an eye of a wyvern in it. And well, that's when Bel puts another eye of the wyvern basically inside of his, left eye socket. So now he can basically see anything which the golem sees. And well, as they're going basically to the Imperium, he notices something. And what he notices a tiny bit terrifies him. He sees an army of 25 paladins just charging. And well, let's just say that it takes about a couple of, well, not even a couple. It takes all of the paladins about 20 or to 30 minutes to kill every single undead there. And well, yeah. Although Bel spots someone, he spots the paladin which had killed him. Now he's actually confused because he thought that several thousand of years basically passed. And that's when Michael, his first subordinate, simply tells him. Since, well, let's just say that Bel asked him of like, how the hell is that paladin alive? So Michael simply explains that he's talking about the... crap, I think that I named that paladin Orion? Or at least I think that I named him Orion. But, well, I think it's Orion. Forgive me guys if it's not. So basically, he explains that Orion has become the most powerful, basically holy paladin in the entirety of the continent, with him being both immortal and having immense holy energy. With basically Orion being close to level 19 currently. So yeah. And I also didn't say like what level Bel was. I'm just gonna say that Bel is currently level 27. Yes, that sounds good. Because guys, keep in mind, for God knows how many years, he was just... he's not level 27, he's level 9. Because, well, even though through the thousands of years, he's basically accidentally killed several elder dragons, a couple of dozen of high-ranking paladins. Even at one point, he accidentally killed the High Prince of the Imperium. So yeah, he gained a lot of levels from that, or well, achievements to basically be promoted to level after level after level. And well, after that, that entire province was known as the Cursed Province. That's why the statue of Odin was even first built, to basically keep the undead from going further into the kingdom. And, well, he simply then explains that the power of Odin has increased dramatically, with him now even having his own proper familia, those being the adventurers currently in Orario. Now, Bel is a bit intrigued because Orario, basically the plans for making Orario around, which was basically a thrown word back then, when Bel was still a human. He simply heard about a plan to build a gigantic city around the largest dungeon, which Bel was a bit intrigued by, although he never really saw any need to investigate it further. And well, basically Michael explains everything that has happened. He explains how Zeus, the most powerful of the gods, had given that the humans gave to the gods three main quests. That being to kill the Leviathan, the Beast King, I believe, and the Black Dragon. Now, Bell just stops for a moment because he knows what the Black Dragon is. Because in the ancient times, the Black Dragon could wipe out several kingdoms alone in a span of a couple of months. Which he was actually known to even do that if he wasn't given proper amounts of gold and all of that. And basically, there was basically three reasons why a country would be destroyed, but basically back in those times. Either they pissed off the Black Dragon, so he burned the entire kingdom to the ground. They gave so much money to the Black Dragon that the kingdom went bankrupt and basically was engulfed in rebellion. And the third one, basically being either that the king died or that another kingdom had attacked them and destroyed them. So, yeah, the Black Dragon was known for two main reasons why kingdoms and empires were basically destroyed. So, yeah, Bell just asked them, even after 3,000 years, they still weren't able to kill him. And, well, that's when Michael explains that the Zeus's familia was able to injure him, well, slightly at least, but at least it proves that he can be killed. Since if he bleeds, he can be killed. Unlike Bell, who doesn't bleed. And well, when Bell asks what the approximate power of the Black Dragon is in levels, he gets a bit shunned, as basically his Michael simply says, probably over level 100. Needless to say, Bell he's basically stops in his tracks, or, well, stops floating and is just like, excuse you? And, well, that's when Michael simply explains what had happened, and also the fact that even though Bell is a level 27, basically any undead being or unholy being can kill a god. And I mean permanently kill a god, not just like make them go back to the heavens from which they descended. I mean that he can actually rip out their soul and basically break it to gain more power. Or, well, yeah, to gain more power. And if any of you guys think that Bale is going to be hunting down minor gods to increase his power level, like any other MMORPG player would do, you're mighty right about that. So, anyways, let's just say that as they're going to the Imperium, they spot a caravan of over 500 knights of the Imperium. And, well, Bell is basically like this. I do need to gather a good force and a good army force. Michael is just basically looking at him and just meh. Although he does say that looks like the royal dragon of the imperial family, so there's a good chance that somebody from the imperial family is there. So Bell simply tests them out. He takes several dozen of his golems, and by the way, in the last episode I said that he had like 200 of them. So he sends like 30 of them to attack the 500 knights. The knights aren't expecting it, and about 100 of them dies in the ensuing attack. Until one of the knights in basically pure red armor simply jumps down of his horse and uses one single strike of his sword and destroys every single golem. And keep in mind, these golems are basically almost level 7. So yeah. Bell is a bit surprised until Michael simply tells him that they need to get out of here now. That is the head of the royal guard of the imperial family. And well, if you guys are wondering what level he is, he's level 23. So yeah, dealing with level 7 golems is basically, well, it's not even a walk in the park. It's literally too easy for him. It's easier than breathing to somebody who's that high of a level. And well, Bell simply nods. But then he sees that the knights simply carry on moving forward. They do not want to take any more casualties, so they leave the knights there. And Bell is just like, well, free real estate. And then he basically takes all of the 100 knights, making them into the undead, and then also giving them magical crystals, which then upgrade them basically to higher level knights, or well, not exactly paladins, since the knights which he got in the kingdom turned into paladins. These guys turned into royal knights. Not royal guards, keep in mind, they're like the higher version of the royal knights, so yeah. And well, basically every single royal knight is about the same level as his golems, so level 7, yeah. And if you guys are wondering how exactly can he have such high level troops when before, if he needed to go for militia and basically just keep giving them magical crystals to become paladins, and his most powerful paladin at the time was level 6. Well, keep in mind that at that time Bel was a human. He's currently in a lich which can kill gods. And well, due to all the magic he has increased, his power is that of a level 29. Although his level is only 9, his magic stat is basically in the, how do you say it? It's in the billions at this point, so it's not even odd at this point. It's like, I think his magical stat would be like something XXXXY, something like that. So yeah, you get the point. It's rather fucking high. And well, along with all of his other stats, although his strength is only in the 6 digits, along with most of his other ones, except endurance. He has 0 endurance, but he also has something saying basically this: physical attacks do not work on a lich, except if they're clad in magic, runes, or holy energy. So yeah. And instead of endurance or defense, he now has magical defense, which is currently at basically it's basically at 99999. So 99,999,000. And basically what that means is that most magical attacks, basically from level 1 to level 13, don't do anything to him. So yeah. And then he also has holy power resistance, because keep in mind the constant flow of holy power which the statue of Odin simply was putting away, that never exactly uncorrupted the lands which Bel had corrupted. So yeah, he had enough power to even stop the holy powers of a fucking, basically in a skyscraper statue of Odin. So yeah, but now, since he isn't there anymore, the knights simply notice something. They notice that grass begins to grow on basically the unforgiven land of that province. And well, that alarms them, because Odin himself told them that if grass was to ever start growing there, it either means 2 things: that the ancient necromancer's powers have finally been neutralized, or that he left the province. And so they immediately sent riders to basically tell the Pope, the current Pope that is, and all of his priests what had happened. Then they basically run. They don't even take horses. The Pope starts running through the fucking capital, with all the people simply looking at him like, why is the Pope running without an escort? And well, he basically comes up to Odin, which is currently speaking to some of the other gods, and then the Odin simply asks him why did he disturb him at this time of day. Then the Pope simply is basically at this point shouting that the Necromancer Bel's powers have begun to disappear from the province of, let's say, Alshir. Yeah, that sounds good. And well, Odin is, well, he isn't exactly happy about that. He's a bit afraid, because he knows that if Bel's power was there for several thousands of years, and the last time he sent some of his priests there wasn't fading in the slightest, that now the power had almost completely gone out, yeah, he was afraid, because that doesn't happen normally. Then he sends some of the priests, including the Pope, and the whole army of paladins, knights, and basically men-at-arms, to go ahead and look for that, including several level 17 through 19 adventurers. And well, when they basically get there, they find an entrance which was hidden by a magic barrier before. At first I think it's a dungeon, but that's when they see basically dark paladin armor on the walls. And then they also see the symbol of Evilus. Then they get afraid. As they enter it, they basically see the former spots where the golems were supposed to be. And they see 200 of those spots. And that's when they wonder where exactly the golems are. And that's when they enter the fucking tomb. They see gigantic pillars, basically of a palace hall. It's even larger than the hall where Odin was supposed to be at. And then they see the gigantic, basically, sarcophagus opened up. And they feel immense unholy energy coming from it. So yeah, now they know. Bel has resurrected. And they simply give a word to every single kingdom around them. Except the Empire, because, well, simply putting it, Odin hasn't really had good terms with Ares, which is the head god of the other kingdom, of the Imperium, that is. So yeah, but eventually Bel arrives at where the other followers of the Necronomicon are. Just a minute, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I think we left off with Bel basically entering the Empire along with Michael, and Michael taking him to basically the hideout of the entirety of the Necronomicon Order, which is basically like 30 of the Order, basically. All of them basically look the same, which is, like this. And all of them communicate using their ravens. Using their ravens, so which you currently see there. And well, Michael just says something in the basically the language of the Necronomicon, which Bel understands, and it's basically something like rite of the passageway open up for your one and only master. And well, simply putting it, it opens up. All the other basically members and some of their scribes, which are like the lowest ones, they like just came into the order, when they see basically this, a lich, enter the fucking, how do you say it, their hideout, all of them are basically surprised, horrified, and kneeling on the ground. And well, Bel simply tells them all that there is no need to bow to him. And well, he goes ahead and speaks to the most powerful one there. Well, actually, no, the most powerful one there is Michael. Let's just say that. What do you call it? Crap. Basically, the one who started the order, or is the current leader of it, which isn't Michael, it's another, basically. How do you call it? A much older man, basically nearly who's lived for 100 or so years. He bows down to Bel, and well, Bel simply tells him that they're going to need to find a better place, or well, a hideout of sorts. And well, that's when they simply begin making preparations. And well, when the Necronomicon Order basically goes ahead into different cities looking for basically information about groups of adventurers or knights or even armies of thousands of troops marching anywhere, basically they try to relay that to Bel every single time. And meanwhile, Bel is writing his other books. And well, he creates one book, which is basically the Necronomicon, although it doesn't have just necromancy, it has all 5 parts in like 5 chapters. And the book is rather large. It is, well, how do you say it? It's half as large as the Bible. So yeah. And well, they simply begin going through all of those pages, looking at the different spells and all of that. And at the end, well, Michael is the first one to be able to do it. he uses necromancy and is able to summon one dead, basically, monster, that being in a, what you call it, in a wolf. So, although something weird happens, it becomes a hellhound. And well, that's when Bell notices something. It's much more effective to just rise up the people who are already dead instead of people you've just killed. And then he basically gets why. Since they were dead, basically like him, they've been gathering up magicals for God knows how long. With that, Bell does a facepalm. Really, really hard. Basically doing a crack on his forehead. And well, that's when he simply begins to go to nearest of graveyards and just start rising up troops from there, with all of them being level 8 to level 9. So yeah, he has a pretty good force now, although most of his force is just that, skeletons, and also some decaying corpses. Basically, he uses the zombies, or well, yeah, the zombies, and other monsters which he had just killed, to basically use as meat shields. So currently he has 3,000 meat shields, 7,000 of the regular skeletons. 7,000 of the regular skeletons. He has 5,000 skeleton knights, and then he has his elite troops. 1,700 grave guard, which are and basically I'm taking that from, like, I hope that that's not copyrighted, since that name is basically from, what do you call it, Total War Warhammer. Basically the most powerful unit of the skeletons is the grave guard. So yeah, and simply putting it, they go ahead and start to march. And that's where they come up against something. A rather large castle being defended by a good army of almost 20,000 troops. And well, simply putting it, Bell sends his meat shields in, and zombies being zombies start to climb up on top of each other and get on top of the walls. And as that is simply going on, Bell notices something. This castle has 3 graveyards inside of the fucking castle. Needless to say, Bell simply uses his necromancy and rises the dead from the graves, with the people and civilians there being absolutely terrified to see their loved ones coming from their graves to kill them. And well, simply putting it, the castle falls rather shortly after that. Although Bell does see one knight and a couple of adventurers who are higher levels than level 9, being level 10 to level 12. So he simply deals with them himself and then rises them back from the dead. And well, he gives the ownership of this castle to the Necronomicon Order, and he also puts all of his grave guard to defend the castle, along with the currently what he has, where he had 5,000 meat shields and 17,000 skeletons, and then also, I think I said 4,000 or 5,000 skeleton knights. Well, now those numbers went a bit up. He now has 5,700 skeleton knights, 2,300 graveyard, 22,000 skeletons, and then basically, since he used all of the entire populace of the entire city, he basically made them into his zombified army, so now he has 30,000 meat shields. And then all of the other necromancers which he had were like Michael and the 6 others, which, yeah, although they can't hold as many troops as he can, they can only hold up to, I would say, well, let's say that they had like a bit of practice, so like a year of practice, so all of them can now have an army up to, or at least a battalion of like 200 troops, so yeah. And well, he basically leaves them along with his troops there, although he does take Michael with him, and well, Michael has rather the most powerful force of all of the necromancers, which are basically under Bell's rule, or well, which are his, how do you say it, his followers, because Michael has 75 grave guard and everybody else being grave knights. that is not Grave Knights, but rather Skeleton Knights. So he has rather elite force. If you guys are wondering, Grave Knight, that is, what they call it, Grave Guard are basically from level 9 to level 11. So yeah, they're powerful. With the zombies being basically meat fodder for Bell. And by that I mean they're level 6 to level 7. So yeah, any starting off adventurer, basically at this point, starting off adventurers due to basically, how do you say it, years upon of years, because at this point a common villager was a level 2. So yeah, so when a child was born, and if they had, what do you call it, if they had a level 5 father and a level 2 mother, they would become a level 4. So yeah, when they were born. So there was a lot that is a level 3 when they were born. And that basically meant only one thing. Humans, elves, and basically every single other races began selective breeding programs. So yeah, that's how most of the heroes came to be, with their mothers basically, well, how do I say this? Some of the most powerful female heroes were captured and then basically raped to have powerful offsprings. Yeah, a bit messed up. Well, not a bit, a lot messed up. Since then they were basically created into soldiers. So, yeah. Or as the people called them, heroes. Although there was one person who basically avenged his mother by killing his father, then taking basically the throne of the kingdom which he had. The only places where this is strictly forbidden, unless it's like actual love, then it's like, yeah, go with it. But selective breeding isn't allowed in basically Hera's kingdom, in Orario and the lands and the kingdoms surrounding Orario, and then also the eastern continent. That basically being where you would see the basically in an empire, 3 different empires. An empire which was basically China, one which was basically Japan, and the third one which was a unified Korea. So yeah, all of them had a bigger disdain for that. Although they were allowing to have multiple concubines, so it was like, meh. Although the most powerful of those 3 empires would have been the one who was Japan, because simply putting it, their emperor was an extremely powerful adventurer, which was about, I would say, level 20, yeah. And all of his wives were level 15 or higher. So, yeah. And well, now going back to Bell. He basically begins preparations to conquer even more of the empire. As he goes on his way, he simply starts making more and more soldiers. The empire basically, at this point, Ares starts sending multiple armies to try and kill Bell, along with several adventurers. And well, they try, they fail, they become the undead. Ares is basically crying in a corner because, you know, he's fucking incompetent. He's only a god of war. He basically revels in slaughter and all that shit. But his holy powers are basically more for, well, how do you say it? It's more like his holy powers. Excuse me, guys. His holy powers basically allow what do you call it? The different types of his soldiers to basically gain more magic and in the most of the. And well, if he actually gives them his holy blessing, they rise a whole level. So, yeah. But anyways, enough about that. This is going to be the end. So this was part 3 of What If Bell Was a Necromancer. I hope you guys enjoyed. Anyways, see ya.